Hi, and welcome to today's Humpday Hangout. My name is Bobby Hall, and I work for Fire Engineering, and we're coming to you live. And I think we're on Facebook, and we're on the great YouTube channel, and all that other good stuff. Today should be a really interesting discussion. We've got some great hosts for you, P.J. Norwood and Frank Ricci, and we're going to have a really wonderful guest with a tremendous pedigree and just a wonderful guy. And we're going to be talking about a wonderful organization today. We're going to be talking about the IAFF and all of the wonderful things it's done for the American Fire Service and continues to do, and what it's going to look like into the future. And Jake is going to be a big part of that and has been a big part of that. But before we begin, we want to tell you that FDIC is open. You can go and register and sign up. We've got a lot of you already registered. A lot of hotel space has already been chewed up. But if you wait till, say, like April 15th and give me a call, I'm sure I can get you downtown. So no, I'm lying. I'm just making that up. So please go register early. And I know it's going to be huge because we're getting back out and we're opening back up, and so by all indications, it looks like nothing's going to stop the show from going forward. At this point, that we can tell from our good friends in the medical profession and our good friends in the political world. So anyway, please go to FDIC.com, check it out. We've got the cadre from 2020, but many, many folks, due to retirements and weddings and transfers and promotions and such, had to, bail. And so we've replaced some of those. We have some openings. So if you are considering FDIC as a potential opportunity for you to share your knowledge and your wisdom and your thoughts and whatever else you may want to share, please, give me a shout, shoot me an email, and we'll put you on the wait list. We'd love to have you, join us. And so that's where that's at. Please remember to go to fireengineering.com, check out the archives. You can share this. It'll be on our YouTube channel. It'll also be on our Facebook page, and it's on fireengineering.com. So let me tell you a little bit about our hosts. Frank has recently retired from New Haven, Connecticut, and is currently working as a writer, interestingly enough, and an opinion person. PJ is still looking for work, going from home. I'm just kidding. PJ is still a chief officer, and is coming to us live. And Jake is currently with the FDNY, and Jake will fill us in a lot more on his bio and his background. And Jake is currently running for the general secretary position of the IAFF, which is an election that's coming up. The president's position is also open for the first time in, I believe, over 20 years. So, that's kind of the background about what's going on in today's American Fire Service. And that's kind of a big deal. Two very, very important positions. And we're very grateful to Jake to come on with us today and just talk about what's going on. So that's what's happening here at Fire Engineering. And remember, if you want to make it to FDIC for 2021 or 2022, people always ask us, how do you get to, the old joke, I grew up in New York. Jake grew up in New York. The old joke was, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 right? It's like the oldest joke in the world. But if you want to get to FDIC, write. Send us an article. Send us a opinion piece. Send us something for the web. Send us something for, the magazine. That's how you get in. Because when the selection committee gets together, if they say, oh, this guy Jake, he wrote that great piece on, truck company operations, or Frank, oh, he wrote that great piece on, deconning SCBAs or whatever you wrote about, right? Or handline positioning for basement fires, whatever you wrote about. Then especially if your talk matches up to what you've been writing about, that's pretty much it. That's the golden ticket. It's all about performance, proven performance, merit. You kind of earned your way to be there. If you just send us a proposal from out of the blue saying, hey, I want to speak about, swiftwater rescue, and we don't know, and you're living in Phoenix, Arizona, I'm just kidding. But we don't know. They do get swiftwater rescues there. They get floods. But if we don't know who you are or what what your pedigree was, and then we just don't know how to base that. But if you've written about swiftwater rescue, there you go. So that's one of the reasons why Frank asked Jake to be here, so you could learn more about Jake. So I'm going to turn it over to the real hosts, Frank and PJ. I'm going to sit back, relax, and listen. And I think you're going to really enjoy this next hour. Frank?
Thank you, Bobby. And we have a great show for you today. And today we're going to take a look at the IAFF election and the need for reform. As the fire service, we learned the value of taking a hard look at our actions and inactions after a complicated fire or rescue. We realize in after action reviews, we have the benefit of clearly knowing what we didn't know before we arrived. We know that decisions are often made based off imperfect information. However, when significant issues are uncovered, we owe it to each other to take action. We owe it to each other to take care of ourselves. Some are saying that this is just another IAFF election filled with the normal election banter, and there's others that are saying that there's outsiders trying to divide firefighters. That can't be further from the truth. The FBI and the Department of Labor opening federal investigations into alleged corruption and the IAFF being papered with subpoenas for documents is no small matter. One of the issues at play here is, not unlike government, the longer a union is in existence, there is a propensity to create a larger bureaucracy. Soon, the union is not about representing its members, it's about preserving the bureaucracy and promoting the self-interest of the elected few. IAFF members are divided over how political endorsements are made, how internal elections are conducted, and there are calls for greater union transparency. However, we're not divided on everything. Health and safety is our bond where we all stand together. All of these are significant issues, and they beg to be addressed in a fair and cogent manner. As I said in the Federalist, if the IAFF cannot reform by locating, confining, and extinguishing corruption from the inside, then like a burning building, it's time for locals to pull out, back out, and let it collapse. Today, we are going to have a conversation with a man of honor who has distinguished himself and who is confident that he can offer a clear vision forward. PJ, can you introduce our great guest?
Absolutely, Frank. I'm absolutely honored to introduce Chief Jake. I'm going to try to get it right. I'm not an Italian chief, so I'm going to do the best that I could. I married a good Italian woman, so I'm going to give it a good shot. So it's Chief Lemonda. Is that correct, Chief?
Lemonda.
Lemonda.
Jake,
okay.
Yeah, Jake Lemonda.
So the chief is a 34-year history in FDNY. He was signed to Engine 92, Ladder 44 in the South Bronx in the early 80s. He was promoted to captain in 2005 and then quickly to battalion chief. In 2008, he was promoted to elected to the executive board of the union. In 2014, he was elected FDNY president of the International Association of Firefighters, which, besides his career in the South Bronx as a firefighter, achieving an election in FDNY with 11,000 strong members, that's a huge accomplishment, Chief. So we're absolutely honored to have you on our show today. And we really look forward to the IAFF general election and seeing you take your experience, your history, and your tradition of FDNY to the international level, representing all of us. So welcome to the show today, Chief Hall. Thanks for having us. And Frank, thanks for hosting the show.
Well, thank you for that great introduction, and just a little clarity. Again, 34, approaching 35 years in the FDNY. You're absolutely correct. I started out in the South Bronx, got promoted to lieutenant in '94, and subsequently, then after 2001, after 9/11, I was promoted to captain. And then in 2005, I was promoted to battalion chief, serving in some of the busiest areas of New York City, South Bronx, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy area, and then I ended up being a battalion chief up in Battalion 11 in Harlem. I'm the president of the UFOA, which represents the Fire Officers Union. We represent everybody from deputy chiefs, battalion chiefs, captains, lieutenants, supervising fire marshals, and we also represent the department's medical officers. So there are actually two unions here in New York City. The Firefighters naturally being the larger one with probably over 8,500 members, and we're approximately, I would say, about 2,400 strong active members with maybe 5,000 retired members that we represent.
Jake, if we could go to Peter for a second, because I think that your introduction to the entire fire service, while a lot of people know your great work, your introduction, your video was pretty compelling. Peter, can we play his intro video?
Some say trust has been broken, that change isn't possible, that our union is at risk. The IAFF has been built on a good foundation, but recent events have put our union in harm's way. A lack of transparency and financial responsibility by some in leadership has left our members exposed and our organization in need of reform. Having someone as General Secretary Treasurer from the outside who can partner with our district vice presidents and our GP is what we need now to strengthen that IAFF foundation we all depend on. In the FDNY, the Bronx has always been known for a strong sense of unionism. Great men such as Mickey May, Nick Palumbo, who was a former IAFF GST, Nicky Mancuso, and Al Hagan all work here at Engine 92 and Ladder 44. As a probie, I was assigned to this firehouse in 1986. This is where I learned the importance of unionism and participation. After 9/11, I was promoted to captain and reassigned to Engine 234. In 2014, I was honored to become president of our great local. I've had a great career and I have a great job. I wouldn't trade them for anything. But there are jobs and there are callings. This is a calling. As your General Secretary Treasurer, I can assure you, from board meetings to record keeping, transparency will be driving every action. The IAFF is not just your union, it's your hard-earned dollars. You are entitled to know how it's spent, and that dues are spent with only your best interest in mind. I'm Jake Lemonda. I'm president of the UFOA, Local 854 FDNY. And I'm asking you for your vote for General Secretary Treasurer of the IAFF. It's time for change. It's time to reestablish the trust. It's time to rebuild. Thank you.
This definitely won't survive the after action review. So when it's posted up in its recorded version, it will have the sound on it. So we apologize. I'll take responsibility for it. So it's our show, so we're allowed to mess things up. Just like a fire.
Absolutely.
Things happen when you're live, guys. It's just what it is, right?
So, Chief, why don't you just give us your elevator pitch for a firefighter? You walk into a firehouse, you're at the kitchen table where we all come together, and somebody says, hey, Chief, why should we back you as for that next step to go to the international to really make an impact on firefighters' lives?
Well, Frank, I think that, my message has been pretty clear and concise to everybody out there. I never had this on my radar screen. I never aspired to seek national office, national attention. As discussed with you before, I had a tremendous career. I have a tremendous career. Sometimes I have to pinch myself because I'm so lucky and I was so blessed with that. The firehouses that I worked in, the firefighters, the fire officers, the chief officers, I truly was so fortunate. And then I had the good fortune to get elected. So seeking national office was never in my on my radar screen. Truth be told, I was ready to come in for a soft landing. We just finished negotiating a contract during the pandemic here in the city of New York, probably facing the greatest fiscal crisis since the 70s. We were able to accomplish this, no give backs. My membership, they were actually thrilled. They couldn't believe that myself and the executive board got it done. So it really started when basically about 9 months ago, when some disturbing news started coming out of Washington, out of our office of the IAFF. And again, it certainly made the headlines. I'm not saying something that's people don't know about. But there was allegations of misappropriation, mismanagement. To what level? You know what? That's not up to me to decide. We have independent IAFF boards looking at the accusations. And also, we do know that we have federal agencies such as the FBI, DOJ, Department of Labor, and IRS in our building right now, investigating this. Now, where all this is going to lead, I'm not quite sure. However, listen, we're firefighters. We know where there's smoke, typically there's fire. And my concern, my fear is that these allegations that were brought forth, it's only the tip of the iceberg, okay? And only time will tell. Well, with these allegations, obviously being a president of an affiliate of a local, we collect union dues that we send down to DC. We send a sizable amount of money down there. And when these headlines were breaking, we were starting to get questions from our membership, myself, other executive board members, and they wanted to know what was going on. They wanted to know what was happening with their money. So we had paid close attention to the ongoings of what was being unraveled down in DC. And it began for myself. I started questioning the ability of the IAFF to actually maybe police itself, because back in July, there was a report was released, and it came from the claims committee, which actually they were tasked with trying to determine whether our general president, Harold Shapeberger, was entitled, was his pension permissible at the time that he started receiving it. And I read the report, and to be very, very frank with everybody, I got angry after reading that report, because here it is, we have 3 district vice presidents that are tasked with answering 2 basic questions. Was the pension permissible? And was there any break in service? They dodged those questions entirely, okay? The report doesn't speak to or address either one of those questions. And that made me angry. I also, in my opinion, the report is filled with assumptions and misrepresentations. It's a document. Obviously, a lot of time was put into it, but it threaded the eye of the legal eye of a needle, and yet it never once answered the basic question: was it permissible? At one point, they referenced Vinnie Bowen, who was a very highly respected member here in New York City. And Vinnie was also the General Secretary Treasurer of the IAFF. In the report, they actually state, if Vinnie was here today, this is what he would have said. I find that insulting, okay? And how does anybody know what a person who is deceased would say if they were here today? The other part that I find very disturbing as a local leader is that they came to the conclusion that if the pension system needs to be made whole, that it shouldn't be the recipient of the person who received those funds, being our General President, Shapeberger, but it's rather the responsibility of the IAFF. And further, if there's any penalty, it's the responsibility of the IAFF, because under the principles of equity, such a long time has passed. It wouldn't be fair to go back and have the person who received the pension to make the pension whole, but rather the IAFF. And I'm sitting there, and listen, I'm a New York City kid, and I'm saying, what did they just say? Who is the IAFF? It's 320,000 plus members across this country, across both countries, Canada and the United States. We are the IAFF. The IAFF is not something abstract. It's the members who are the lifeblood of this, of the union, of the organization. But more importantly, it's our money. So if the pension was not permissible, we, through our dues, fund the pension system. We paid it out improperly. And now we're going to have to make it whole again. So in effect, paid the pension system twice. And I sat back, I said, I don't even think we can police ourselves any longer. Further, I said, someone needs to do something about this. And often you hear that phrase in the firehouse, someone should do something about it. And back where I started, whenever someone said that, everybody would look at them and they go, yeah, do something about it. You noticed it, you fix it. So I look at my union experience, my financial experience, which comes along with my union responsibilities. And I said, I'm in a position to do this. Again, I have no agenda. I have no allegiance to anybody. I threw my hat in the ring because it's broken. The system is broken. The organization is broken. I know there's conversations out there, and the rhetoric is that we're divided as a union. This union has never been divided, okay? We have a common bond. That common bond is that we reach down, pull our bunker pants up, put our helmets on, and we risk our lives for the benefit of the citizens that we're sworn to protect. That's our common bond. We're no better than anybody else, but we're different. We're different because we're willing to risk our lives for that person that we don't even know. That bond has kept us so close. So when someone says the union is divided, we got to reunite. No, the union is not divided. In times of crisis, we always came together. There's no greater example than 9/11. One of the largest fire departments in the world, we were dropped to our knees. We were laying on our backs. Our department was decimated in a split second. And immediately, from across the river, from up in Connecticut, brothers and sisters came running. And in days to follow, in the weeks to follow, help came from all over, both the United States and Canada. They were there to help us. It was a crisis. They lifted us up, they dusted us off, and they put us back on our feet again. And that I'll never forget. So when they say we're divided, obviously we are polarized politically right now, just as this country is polarized. We're nothing but a microcosm of society in its whole. So if someone's using that political position as a case for division, it's really not accurate. What we have before us is a financial crisis, a fiscal crisis, an ability to tell the membership the truth. And when I weighed this, obviously, this is a big decision. I spoke to my executive board, who oftentimes I get the accolades for our successes, but it's my executive board who they, they're down in the trenches every day, and they actually need the credit. I spoke to them, but more importantly, I spoke to my wife, because this would be a huge life change. I would have to go and live in DC. There's no other way to do this job. Our home is here on Long Island. So as everything else that I have always did in my life, my wife Ann, who I've been married to for 34 years, got to give her a plug, and my two great daughters, I spoke to them, and they were 100% supportive, and that was the impetus that I made the decision that, you know what, I have to have the ability at least to speak to the membership. And that's why I stepped forward. I pretty much jumped out of a plane, probably at about 30,000 feet without a parachute. I don't suggest it to anybody. But but nonetheless, I jumped in, both feet first, and here we are today. Trying to reach as many of the brothers and sisters across both countries, just getting my message out. What I see is wrong, and how to move forward.
Well, as the official ombudsman of these events, two requests, one to you and one to Frank. First, Frank, have the other folks who are running been invited to be on your show to discuss their platform? Are you opposed, Jake, by anyone, or?
Oh yes, there are two other.
I would just say the standing invitation to those folks, if they want to come and have their voices heard, that absolutely. We love Jake, and he's a friend of our, full disclosure, he's a friend of one of our dearest friends in the whole world, my dear friend Mike Dugan, and Jake are thick as thieves, and any friend of Mike's is a friend of mine. That's that's how it goes, right? I mean,
absolutely
goes without saying there. So my second question to you, Jake, if you wouldn't mind, a lot of us, and I was a lifetime, I left a member in good standing from the IAFF. I paid my dues my whole career. Full disclosure, I'm deep friends with Harold Shakespeare. I'm deep friends with Eddie Kelly. What's going on does not affect. I'm a Jeffersonian libertarian. A man's politics, religion, or ideology is no reason for me not to be his friend. I can have knockdown, drag out fights with Harold. We have over the last 20 years repeatedly. And at the end of the day, we still love and hug each other and go down the road together and pray together. Harold's a Catholic, I'm a Catholic. And so I love him. I love him dearly. I'm unapologetically Catholic, conservative, and a constitutionalist. I stole that quote from Justice Thomas, but but it rings true for me as well. So the question is, to getting around to it, what exactly does the General Secretary do? So everybody's clear on that. In other words, what would your role and responsibilities be? And how, what are some of the main concerns that you have, despite clearing up the financial stuff that's being investigated and taken care of? And they were very clear on that, and we appreciate that. That's necessary. But what are the other things that you would do? Because one of the things that I had, and I'll just be honest, I always felt as a dues-paying member that I never felt like I was really being heard all the time. And I felt like, and I love that, and I'm very appreciative for everything the union's done for me, and they did a great deal for me during my career, and they continue to do a great deal for me. So what is the role of the General Secretary, and how will you perform that role? What are some of the things you're going to focus on?
So, Bobby, I think that's a great question. What is the role of the General Secretary Treasurer? And by definition, General Secretary Treasurer is obviously responsible for recording and record keeping, and also the finances of the union, of the organization. I think that there are in the organization there are two principal offices. The general president, which is tasked with the overall running of the union, okay, and policy and practices moving forward, while being partnered with the general secretary treasurer, who again is charged with overall finances of the union. Moving forward, again, I think certainly anybody would be remiss if they did not acknowledge the contributions that the General President, Harold Shakespeare, has made. He has dedicated to his life to this union. 24 years in staff position, 20 years as president. So I don't think anybody can argue that he hasn't been directly responsible for most of the successes during those 20 years.
Jake,
however,
Jake, not to cut you off, but we want to hear your vision. I Harold Schatzberger's accomplishments are his accomplishments, but he was also getting paid $354,000 a year and then taking a pension while he was still working up to $500,000 a year. And Harold's not running anymore. So I'm not here to throw rocks at Harold or anybody else. Right. I want to know about Jake, and our members want to know about your vision to kind of bring transparency and kind of right the ship. So I say that, but I want to move away from Harold.
Okay, but just to be fair, Frank, just so I'm clear, that I am not questioning whether Harold earned a pension. Okay, I'm not questioning that. I think after 44 years, he certainly earned a pension. The question in my mind, okay, was he entitled to take that pension? And that's one of the basic questions that's before this membership. So, I don't want the issue to become clouded. We as affiliate leaders, union leaders, this is what unions are about. Fighting for our pensions, fighting for the protection of our members so that they could go on into their golden years and have that financial protection. So, sometimes I think the issue becomes clouded in somebody's mind. And I just wanted to clear that up, that certainly I think he has beyond a doubt earned a pension. Question is, was he entitled to collect it when he did? So moving on to my vision, this is what I think that needs to happen. I'm a fresh set of eyes. I'm actually, when it comes to, let's say, the IAFF, we're a member, but I'm an outsider. I'm not a district vice president. I'm not a principal officer. I think what we need to do right now is hit the pause button, hit stop. What we need to do, and I said I would support this at this convention, is that I would support a 0 per capita dues increase. Why? Again, hit that pause button. What we need to do, we need a top to bottom review, both operationally and financially, okay, of the organization. We need a detailed report to see where the inefficiencies, where the redundancies are, where we're spending the money, okay? On the financial side, we have to peel back the onion. We have to look under every rock, Frank, okay? And we have to see where the monies are. We have all different per capita charges that were passed. Okay, monies that were allocated to certain funds. We have to assure ourselves, okay, through a independent financial audit to see where each fund is, where the balance is, whether they're being used correctly. I think over time that the authority and constitutional powers have been stripped away from the General Secretary Treasurer. Over the years. I think those powers have been concentrated under the office of the General President. There's no one that could tell me that the founding forefathers of this union had envisioned that this was the way they designed this organization. I believe it was designed much like our country, a democratic organization with a system of checks and balances, okay? So that no one office would become too powerful in the sense that they would work independently but collaboratively together. That's what I bring to the table. I think what we have right now is some members, okay, they're upset that this has gotten out into the public, okay? I have no control over that. But the fact of the matter is the facts are out there, or the allegations. We'll see what's true and what's not true. But again, we have problems. I understand that the executive board, that they had to borrow money and put it into the pension fund because they couldn't, there were not enough funds there. That has to be a question in everybody's mind, okay? We need to really look at the pension system. We need to look at the benefits that are being paid because there's, other than investment, there's no other source of funding other than the members' money. It's imperative that we look at this. We need to look at contracts and vendors. We have to make sure that the marketplace is being tested.
Jake?
We got to be sure that we're getting fair services for the money that we're being paid. I understand there may be contracts in that building that were just automatically renewed year after year after year.
Jake,
Without the request for a proposal process.
May I interrupt you for a second? When you said
Absolutely.
that the pension fund, are you talking about a pension fund from the IAFF to IAFF officers and such?
Yes, yeah, Bobby. It's my understanding that the IFF, and I believe there are two plans there, one for the staff plan and one for the executive board and principal officers. I understand that money needed to be borrowed so that the organization make payment into the funds so that the funds are sustainable, so that the pension is sustainable.
So that's the pension fund that would help our friends that, are working for the IAFF for full time as a job.
Yes, correct.
Okay. I was unaware of. I knew we had a pension fund, but I was unaware that it had a difficulty.
Yes, and again, as an outsider, I'm only privy to what I read and what I obviously glean from minutes of reports. But from my perspective, again, I think we need to hit the pause button, and we need to see exactly at what financial position this organization is in right now. And there's no way to do that without an independent audit to go in. It'll probably take certainly a bit of time, probably anywhere between 90 and 100 days. But I think it's imperative. We need a snapshot so that we can go back to the membership and say, listen, here's the truth. This is where we are at this moment in time. Now, the truth may not be pretty, okay? But nonetheless, that's how you're going to reestablish the trust between the membership and the executive board to move forward so that this great organization can continue.
Jake,
I think a complete financial review and the pause and not raising dues on the membership are great concepts. I just got a question because a lot of people are still confused about the pension issue. So I just want to put it in clear terms without even throwing a rock. The issue with the pension was it wasn't your pension that you get from the municipality or town or city you work for. It was an IAFF pension. The pension fund got into trouble because individuals who weren't retired were collecting on the pension. So to break it down in just real simple terms, if you got hired in New York City or LA or Indianapolis, you're paying into your pension a certain extent. And then when you retire and you earn that pension, you collect and draw from it. The issue being at the IAFF is that certain individuals were collecting on their pension while they were still working. And that goes afoul of the IRS rules. And there may be millions of dollars in fines that the IAFF members, your dues paying members, are going to have to eat. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's accurate, Frank, in the fact that, again, one of the allegations or improprieties that the General Secretary Treasurer presented to the Executive Board was that our General President was collecting his staff pension when he worked as a staff member of the IAFF. He was elected in 2000, and he began receiving that staff pension. According to what I know, again, I don't have the documents. According to what I know and what I read, okay, the pension plan document said that it was impermissible to take an in-service distribution, okay? And therein lies the question. I believe General Secretary Treasurer Kelly, he got the opinion of 3 independent law firms, and basically each law firm opined and said that the pension was not permissible. So now I don't know what the financial condition of the IAFF staff plan is. I don't know what the condition is of the executive board members and the principal officer's pension plan. I do not know what the fiscal condition is of those plans. However, what I do know and what I've heard is that just like a municipality has to pay into the pension for the members that are working, let's say for the fire department, the IAFF has to pay into those two pension plans. Okay, that they're the funding source. It's my understanding that the IAFF actually had to borrow money to make those payments. So, to what extent and to what is the plan sustainable? Again, Frank, I'm an outsider, but all I know is this: it does not make sense. It's not adding up, and I'll say it again. Typically, where there's smoke, we have fire, gentlemen.
Bobby, can we get PJ into this conversation? Because
I was going to say exactly that, but I did have one quick point before I want to hear what PJ has to think about what we've been hearing. And this is as a member question. I currently run a neighborhood association, and my wife is the treasurer. And we actually require an independent audit of our neighborhood association annually. It's only 29 homes. I mean, I think our total holdings are less than $10,000, but we pay a company to come audit everything we're doing just to make sure that what we're doing is correct. So my question to you, Jake, is that as our should you be elected to our general secretary's treasurer position, would you be in favor, or would you commit at this point to making sure that an independent audit was done on the IAFF finances, or would you look into it so that you would always be assured that you were in fact comporting with the correct rules, regulations, and policies and procedures?
Not only would I support it, but I would suspect that the members demanded, Bobby, at this point in time, because I don't think anybody could accurately say what financial condition that the union is currently under. And, we all hope that, when we pay money into organizations, we hope that certainly the organizations are run honestly, truthfully. But at this point in time, I don't think anybody could step up and say, you know what, this is exactly where we're at. An interesting thing, when I became a board member here, we were in the Bernie Madoff era. And we meet probably every week as an executive board here at the UFOA. We have a lot of business to take care of, and it serves us well to meet on a weekly basis. And back then, the treasurer of the union, he gave his weekly report, and it was actually kind of a quarterly update. And he went through all of our assets. And I was sitting there, and I asked a question. I said, "How do we know? You just told us we had X amount of dollars here, X amount of dollars here, X amount of dollars there." And he said, "Well, we get a statement. Here's the piece of paper." I said, "I'm pretty sure that Bernie Madoff's clients were getting statements also." And I said, "I'm not alleging that there's something wrong, but how do we really know?" And we're dealing with big banks, incredible. But I said, how do we look the membership in the eye and say with 100% certainty, this is where all the assets are? I said, are we audited? And, oh yeah, we're audited. We're subject to audit by the New York City Controller, by the state of New York Controller's office. How often does that happen? Well, they don't tell us, they just do it. When was the last time we had an audit? It was a few years ago. So that began the dialogue and a discussion on the board. And that was the impetus that then Al Hagan said, you know what? We need an independent audit, okay? So that someone comes in, they take all our books, take all our records, and they dot all the I's and dot all the T's. And the funny thing, Bobby, too, is that it's interesting because you could actually almost steer an audit by just saying, well, this is what we want audited. But actually, what we requested, we wanted a full audit from top to bottom. And the firm we hired came back, I believe, with somewhere around 30 to 40 recommendations. Some were minor, some were actually substantial in the sense that, for example, that any check written over X amount of dollars needs the signature of 2 people. Okay. So over the course of time, we've implemented every suggestion that those auditors have. Initially there was a list of 46. Some of it was basically because we were not using the up-to-date technology that we could have been using. We had a lifelong employee here. He was tremendous, and he had his own way of doing things. And so it took us a little while to move into modern technology. But would I support an audit? Absolutely. I think anybody that's elected, my opponents, I think they would be crazy to walk in and not ask for an audit so that they would be able to do their job properly. And I think that once that audit is performed, that the report of the financial condition of the organization needs to go directly to the membership. Via which conduit? Well, I couldn't think of a better conduit than empowering our district vice presidents to say, deliver this to your membership.
P.J., did you want to get in on this conversation?
I would like to just bring this into a different direction and also bring an issue that Chief Fulton alluded to. And Chief, I know you may not have all these answers because your current position not being an insider, but just maybe some things to kind of log away and bring forward. One, Chief Fulton mentioned some union members feel like a lack of communication, right? So at my level, 25-year member, I don't feel at times, not all the time, that the IAFF actually is a voice, that I have a voice in the international. So I would look forward to, on top of the audit and the financial stuff, that changing maybe some lines of communication. So I'm wondering if you have an opinion on that. But also, more importantly, is kind of sticking with the financial side. There's a recent report regarding the MDA Fill the Boot campaign. Us as IAF members, we dedicate a lot of time. I think it was about $20 million that we've collected for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. But there's a recent report out that talks about a little over $5 million was paid back to the IAFF from the MDA. Are you aware of that? And do you have any information on that for our members? And if you do, what would you look to change for that in the future?
Well, so certainly that's one of the biggest campaigns that happens across the country. And as you said, we have the brothers and sisters across these 2 great countries, literally standing out there with, our turnout boots and going into the communities and, asking for donations. And I couldn't think of a more worthy cause than to, help the sick children and their families. Now, I also read the report. And again, I can only opine on what I know and what I read. So if we look at charities across the board, no matter what charity is, we always know that there is some administrative cost. There's a cost in raising money. So I'm not naive to that sense. However, the numbers that are being reported, if they are accurate, and I don't know if they are, but let's assume for a second that they are accurate, I would find it very hard to believe that the cost associated with the Fill the Boot campaign reaches to that threshold. Here in New York City, basically, it's probably a little, dangerous to stand on the Grand Concourse with a boot and try to collect some money. So, we choose to participate in a different way across the city. Every meal in the firehouse for a month, everybody just throws in an extra buck. The commissars of those firehouses collect that money, and then we send it off to the IAFF to be transmitted to the MDA. So when I look at that, there's no cost that we request from the IAFF associated with raising that money. Again, throughout my travels, oftentimes we see other brothers and sisters out there in our neighboring communities out there collecting money. It's hard for me to believe what the enormous cost would be associated with this campaign. So when I look at that report, again, I have to question the fact that where is the cost associated? So you would have to really do a deep dive to see. It's hard for me to believe, sitting at this seat, what those associated costs are. I would say this, moving forward, that I think this is a tremendous charity, and they do some good work. We've all read the article. I understand we received some more money than some other, let's say, universities have received doing the research to try to cure this disease. That, to me, is a travesty. So moving forward, I would say that we do a deep dive. We realize what our costs. If our costs are minimal, at best, minimal, I would suggest, or I would put before the membership, that the organization absorbs the cost of this campaign. Because again, I think that they're minimal, and that all the monies that are collected out there on the streets and the firehouses across these countries, that those monies go to the charity, go to the cause that it was intended.
I think that's very well said, Jake. And just to defend the writer of this, who, talking about a charity and exposing things like this is never comfortable. And he was reluctant on writing it. It was Mark Fitch, who's an award-winning investigative journalist. And the numbers that we're talking about here that started in 2015, the numbers don't come from a right-wing think tank. The numbers come from the Department of Labor filings from the International Association of Firefighters. And he included that in his article. So I thank Mark for going out on a limb and tackling a tough subject. And I think that your leadership on this would be unbelievable, is because there are people suffering from a horrible disease, kids and adults, and the IAFF could absorb those costs. One thing that I just want to bring up about an audit, and why I personally have some faith in you and your reputation precedes you, is that I'm going to quote Alan Brunacini real quick here. He said, and I'm not talking about you, Jake, in the quote, but you can fool the spectators, you can't fool the players. Audits are great, but the audit comes down to two things: the integrity of the treasurer who's putting forth the information, and the integrity of the audit company. The IAFF's books are audited, I believe. I could be wrong, but my understanding is they're audited yearly, and most unions, their books are audited yearly. And one thing I just want to point out is that I had the opportunity, as everybody knows, they tried to remove me from office as being a union president. And when they put me in the collections and called my mom, our union sued the state association. Now, the state association was audited every year. And yet, when we went to court for the injunction that we won, the judge noted something very disturbing. Now, I just want to read it. Now, this is from a company that's a union that's been audited every year. The court has heard evidence. This is the judge's words, not mine. The court has heard evidence from the local of questionable expenditures from the state union, including personal travel that may not have been reimbursed, suspicious, in quotations, mistakes from PAC funding balances, and an admission of a plainly improper loan the state union took and repaid from its affiliate charity. So the reason I'm saying this is, yes, it's great, and your opponents in this are going to say, yeah, we're going to do an audit too. But an audit doesn't mean anything if the treasurer doesn't have the integrity. And I am not in questioning your integrity at all, because from everybody that I've talked to, whether they're a Democrat, Republican, disenchanted, or a libertarian, have held you in the very highest esteem. And I don't know your politics. And when I talked to you on the phone, I said, I don't want to know your politics. I just want to know that you're a man of integrity. And I truly believe that. So I thank you. And I hope that you're the one that's overseeing this audit to fix these problems. There's one last issue with the books that I just want to bring to light. Fire engineering is a for-profit organization that I always say we put forth educational advertising. We let all voices be heard. Anybody's welcome to come on this show. Fire engineering puts no controls on their writers or teachers when we teach or lecture. The manufacturing is completely separate, but it's a for-profit business, and Bobby Halton and Fire Engineering does an unbelievable job of maintaining that separation. And I'm a capitalist, so the model works, and it gives firefighters like P.J. Norwood and Mike Galliano and Anthony Castros and Anthony Avillo the ability to have a platform. So Fire Engineering is a private organization that does great work for the American Fire Service and gives everybody a voice. We see, and I think you said it, the one thing that's not divided in the IAFF is putting on that turnout pants. Firefighter health and safety is our bond. And we expect as members, especially with cancer issues, suicide issues. I mean, there's plenty of human health issues that the International is dealing with, and some things they do a really great job with. But the members that I talk to were a little upset to find out that when the International is doing a conference on cancer, when there's still questions about cancer causing forever chemicals that could possibly, well, we know for a fact that they're in our gear, but could possibly be getting into our bloodstream, that they're researching and doing more research now. And I'm not faulting the manufacturers, but it's just a bad look when the manufacturers are giving $100,000 sponsorships to the IAFF for a cancer summit. Is there a time where we look at something and say just the inference of impropriety doesn't make sense, and maybe that's not the place we take a sponsorship?
Well, very interesting, and I'm definitely. You talk about integrity. Integrity is not just a word, but integrity is based upon your actions and how do you react to things. Being in the former affiliate business, I'm in the local president. So Frank, we all know unions being nonprofit. Okay, sometimes to the benefit of the membership in whatever we're doing, whether we're raising funds for charity or whether we're raising funds for our scholarship fund, that we tap into the manufacturers that supply us the tools and the apparatus and the turnout gear that we use. We tap into the resources of these big companies, such as benefit providers and such. So that's a standard practice that occurs around the country. I think the question here is, though, that you have to look at what the mission of the organization is. And one of the missions is paramount, is the health and safety of our members. Now, whether the health and safety is being questioned because, let's say, of a defective apparatus or possibly a chemical that's being used. I think once that a conflict percolates, okay, to the surface, such as maybe a manufacturer using a chemical in our turnout gear that may, be absorbed by us, that is a carcinogen. That's a red flag, okay? A red flag in the sense that there is now a potential for a conflict of interest, because we, as a union, the IAFF, what are we here for? We're here to be the advocates for the members who pay our dues. We are here to be that moral compass to say this is harmful and this is not. And once that conflict of interest, now, you have to let it play out, and the research needs to be conducted fully. so that we can make an educated decision to say either this chemical is dangerous or the chemical is not dangerous. But I think once a conflict arises, just like I said before, you have to hit a stop button. You have to hit a pause button to say, and turn to that manufacturer and say, listen, you know what? There's questions here. And if I accept this money, I'm not sure that the integrity of the process could stand up to the litmus test of a smell test. So thank you for supporting us. Let's see where the research brings us, and hopefully that whatever is in question, that your company, your corporation, can either disprove or say you're not going to use whatever chemical, or let's say a manufacturing process, whatever the issue is. So I believe once there's a conflict of interest, and it's an obvious conflict. If we're accepting a donation, or a sponsorship from a company, that maybe is producing a chemical or using a chemical that's potentially harmful to all of our members, I think that as an organization, from an integrity standpoint, you have to say, as much as we need your contribution, we can't accept it at this point. That's my view.
Very, very well said. What do you call it? Jake, the IAFF needs you. And what do you call it? I do believe you're a man of integrity, even if you hang out with Mike Dugan. So, in all honesty, I really appreciate you coming on the Fire Engineering Google's Hangout today. This isn't an easy interview to come on with Bobby Halton, Frank Ricci, and P.J. Norwood. Everybody knows you're going to get asked the hard questions. And every question we asked, you gave us an honest answer. You didn't dodge a question. You don't come across like a politician. You come across as a New York fire chief. And the fire service for 100 and something years has always been looking up to New York City fire chiefs. It is the New York City Fire Department, and I hope that you continue to lead us forward. I'm just going to go around the horn. I'll give PJ and Bobby their last word, and then you can say your last word out. But I really appreciate you coming on and facing this tough interview. And this is what fire engineering is about. And Bobby Halton is correct. Anybody can come on this show, and we'd love to have you, because more speech is the key to getting to the heart of the issues. PJ Norwood, last word of the day.
Yeah, Chief, thank you for coming on. Our conversation before the show started, along with your video, shows the deep, rich history and the tradition that you have in the fire service. And you've dedicated practically, your whole life to the fire service. I look forward to supporting you, as well as many other IAFF members, in your future endeavors in the next chapter. I like to say, to right in the ship of the IAFF and putting us on a good course to have even a stronger union for the future. So thank you for stepping up and looking to take the abuse that you're going to take when elected into this next position. So thank you. Chief Halton.
Well, first of all, Jake, I admire anybody who's willing to put themselves out there for this kind of scrutiny. I know what it's like to be under the magnifying glass, and it's not comfortable. Everything you say and do will be exacerbated or viewed through people's worldview, and God bless them for having it. And I respect them all. Doesn't mean you agree with them. And I think that's a really important point going forward, is that Jake is running for a position where he's going to have to make tough decisions, and probably some of your decisions I won't agree with, Jake, and I look forward to getting a chance to argue with you, because you're intelligent and well thought out and very respectful. So, and I think those are the kinds of discussions that people long for. And I think that the union will be well served by having your hand at the leadership role of General Secretary Treasurer. And I really want to thank you for the willingness to come on here today. And as Frank said, answer. And there was no script. Jake had no idea what we were going to ask him, and stand for any and all questions. And I hope that the folks who are running against you take Frank up on his offer. And if they want to get on earlier, I'll make sure one of the other hosts are available or whatever. And Frank and PJ can make themselves available if they want to get on sooner. So This is an open platform, and fire engineering is not endorsing anyone as a corporation. Individuals with fire engineering, maybe that's their call and their business. So, but I really, really enjoyed listening to you and getting to know you a little better. And thank you. And thank you for your time.
Jake, last word, and we'll make sure that when this is archived up that we put the sound into your video, because it is a very compelling spot. So last word for viewers.
Well, I just listen. Thank you for the opportunity. I think the most important thing is, in no matter what discipline we're in, that there's open communication and the ability. Certainly, I got into this race. I'm in 100%. I'm in it to win it. But I think that no matter what the outcome is that I think part of my mission is to open the eyes of the membership, because, when we look structurally at the entire organization, everybody needs to remember, I don't care if you're a large local, small local, medium-sized local, you have to remember one thing. You are a local and you must maintain your autonomy. The locals should be sending the direction to the IAFF, not the other way around. And, just in closing, I thank you for this opportunity. As I said, I don't view myself as any better than anybody else in society, but I know we are different. And the common bond that we share, and I don't care if it's up in Connecticut, Arizona, up in Montana, our common bond is that we crawl down hallways for a living. And those of us that did it, we know sometimes how challenging that can be. I've had a rewarding career, and again, I would do it over in a second, because I would do nothing other than this. It's a tremendous profession, and fire engineering, I know profit, for profit, but the ability to educate the fire service around this country is so valuable, because we could lean on each other and take what's important and possibly save each other's lives. So I think they provided a tremendous service. Again, just thank you for the opportunity, gentlemen. It was a pleasure, and hopefully I'll have the honor and privilege to move this organization forward.
That's it from Fire Engineering's Google Hangout today. And I did talk to Jake on the phone, and he did give me one bit of advice. And I think that we always like to have a tactic or, something about being a firefighter, crawling down that hall, chopping a hole on a weakened roof, whatever it may be. And something that he said was really neat. He said, when I studied for captain, I studied with Mike Dugan and a couple other great guys. And that's a lesson for everybody out there, because as I go throughout the country, I talk to people, they're like, it's a competition. No, when you get together with some great people that have the same goals, you feed off each other and you make each other better. So if you're studying for that next test, get out that fire engineering book, keep reading, keep checking out our podcasts, go to FDIC and get yourself a good, close-knit study group like Jake and Mike Dugan did.
And most importantly, like Dugan did, learn how to copy off a smarter guy like Jake.
There you go. And that's it for Fire Engineering Google Hangout. Honored to have Jake on. Good luck in your run, and have a great day, and everybody be safe out there.
Thank you, brothers. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we should be clear. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Once
you.
Again.
Thanks again. Be well. Stay safe.
You too,
PJ,
Chief.
thank you.
All right, Peter.
Bye-bye.